Welcome back to WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. Feels good to be home for a couple of days here and getting worked up for the Caps in the postseason and watching the Wizards and getting acclimated with the Orioles, who've gotten off to an incredible start. But I got an old friend here, and I don't know that he and I have done more than an hour of radio together ever, but we have crossed the same paths over the course of 25 years. He worked at 101 Sports, and then I worked at 101 Sports and Sporting News Radio. He is now a weekend warrior on the national circuit at Fox Sports Radio, and does a wonderful job of covering all things sports, and his fantastic, lovely personality and sense of humor. Now doing sports radio in Burlington, Vermont. I remember when he lived in Chicago, Illinois. Arnie Spanier is the stinking genius and the number one, because how could he be number two? He's always been number one. We welcome Arnie back onto the program, my Facebook friend, longtime friend. Where have you been, man? Like, I've just been here in Baltimore, doing radio and talking sports. But, I mean, how does one get to Burlington, Vermont, Arnie?
Witness relocation. I want you to know something, though. By the way, I remember you calling me when I left the network, and you're like, hey, this is Nestor. You know, they offered me a job, and I'm like, you were debating whether you should take it. There was some, hesitation. I'm like, yeah, take it. What, are you kidding me, man? They pay well. You'll have a good time. They were booming at the time. I don't think there was, I correct me if I'm wrong, I don't even know what was Sports Radio Network, what was it. I don't know if ESPN was around or, what was happening, but it seemed like they were killing it back in the day. That was a long time ago, so I don't want to age you there, Nestor, but I remember you calling me, and yeah, it was those were the days, no doubt about that. But Burlington, Vermont, man, it's a long, I got tired. My mom lives in L.A., my brother lives in L.A., everybody
Where
I know,
are you from? I don't even know this. Give me your background,
my in-laws live in Arizona. My wife and I met at U of A, but my son plays hockey, and it was getting to the point where, he was getting ready for high school, and he really wasn't developing like I thought, and we had to make the conscious effort to say, you know what, let's move him back to the East Coast, let him go to one of those private prep schools, and get him in a hockey program, and, that's what we did. We moved around the country a lot, so I think that kind of hurt him, as we moved around a lot, so I wanted to do something back to him, Nestor.
Were you Arizona? I mean, I know you as a Wildcat fan, but I don't even know, where you went to high school or what your early allegiance. I mean, everybody that knows me knows I'm Baltimore, knows I'm Orioles and Ravens and all that. I've only had one sort of identity, through all of that. Yeah, I got to know you doing national radio in Chicago, and, that was a time where, dude, if we ever wanted to write a book, right, just about that time when national sports radio went from non-existent in 1988 to incredibly crazy by 1998, right?
It was insane. I don't think we understood what was going on with the national scene, who we were reaching, exactly what stations we were on, and nobody was really helping us. I remember back then, producers aren't producers like they are now. Now, of course, they help you with the show, and they help you get guests and topics and write things out and print things out and this, that, and help you with the social media. Back then, our producer was only there for one thing. That's to go run bets for us in Vegas and go over to the sports book and make sure they came back. And I remember one producer took one of the host's paycheck, and he didn't come back for 3 hours because he sat at the blackjack table, and he came back with absolutely nothing of this guy's paycheck. So, boy, those were the days, Nestor.
Yeah, I mean, sports radio was kind of born off the gambling circuit, right? Especially from where you're from, and our dear late great friend Papa Joe Chevalier, who I still think about often because he made me laugh. And man, we would, I still get Rick Ballou on, pretty often. I think most of us avoid Mariotti because, well, if you ever met him, Bob Kemp comes on with me once in a while from out in Arizona. But you were a Vegas guy or an Arizona guy, Arnie?
I went to the University of Arizona, so I was there 82 to 86. I was never a Vegas guy. The only way I ended up in Vegas is because the network was there, and I kept hounding them until they brought me in for it was like Christmas Eve and Christmas and New Year's Eve and New Year's overnights, and when
was
I
that
went
just for Vegas, Arnie, or was that national?
I didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't even bring in headphones, Nestor. How about that? I didn't know how to punch up a call, and I didn't bring in headphones. So you want to talk about being raw back in the day, and that's what started a lot of us, at least me. That's and by the way, you mentioned Papa Joe, who I just absolutely love and adore. When he was alive, and it was his paycheck that never came back. So we can laugh about it now, but it was pretty funny,
Dude, I've been calling around to like Dustin Rhodes and some of the old producers to try to find his fan bill of rights. It was never published on the internet because there was no internet. I mean, I don't even know if there was probably like AOL and CompuServe like in 95, 96, 97. But that Bill of Rights that he did during the 94 baseball strike, I mean, I remember it vividly. But, they were still talking about what rights do fans have, right? And to think of where it was 20 years ago to now, look at the draft this weekend, Arnie. Up in Philadelphia, they're going to have 250,000 people getting together, right? This draft has turned into something that the Combine, the Senior Bowl, all of these agents, all of the college programs, all of the pro days, all of the social media, all of the scouts, it is its own. Dude, how many mock drafts exist on the internet right now? 7-round mock drafts. There are hundreds and hundreds. And back in 1998, you and I had like a Mel Kiper book, a Joe Bushbaum, and an R-Lads, right?
Oh, I was about to say the R-Lads.
Absolutely. Those were our cheat sheets back then. And then you see what it's become. It really is kind of amazing, right?
Beyond amazing. And you know what's crazy is you said, look at all the trends. You talk about the 3 books to the hundreds and hundreds of mock drafts now, and you still wonder why teams are getting the draft wrong. You still wonder why teams are lucky to get, 20% of them right if these guys work on out. I think what they do is put too much emphasis. I don't care anymore what you're going to run in the 40, because you know what? You're not playing in your underwear, running straight 40 yards, nobody in your way, saying go. That's not football. I don't care how high your vertical is. And you know what? Great. You're really strong. You could bench something 15 times instead of 14 times. That's not a reason for me to go ahead and jump you up 3 rounds to take you. Now, how about what you did on the football field for 3-4 years? That's what to come into play. And for some reason, I get a feeling a lot of these scouts overlook what they've done in the field of play, and it's more like, oh, the Wonderlick, what he did here. Oh, look, you should have seen him at the Senior Bowl, or you should have seen him do this, or he didn't give the right answer. They played too many games. Like they said, keep it simple, stupid, and I don't think they're doing that.
Well, and I think Ozzie Newsome has said that on every occasion. We look at what they did on the field, and then after that, we want to know what kind of people they are. Is this somebody that's going to be coachable, learnable? Are they going to fit into our system, what we want to do schematically? What kind of teammate are they going to be? Because, look, the Ravens, like a lot of these other franchises, has been burned by all this. And that being said, you know as well as I do, this kid Joe Mixon's going to get taken by somebody, right? Like, we learned what a bong mask, the value of that was 11 picks last year, right? Like, we go back to Randy Moss and Warren Sapp on draft. But, all the dirt comes out, all the policing comes out, and you learn the good and the bad, and then they go when they pick these guys, and we're still waiting on, Matt Elam around here, and Rashad Perryman's still on the team, and these were first-round draft picks. I mean, even the most expert of experts, Ozzie Newsome, who's been pretty good at this, and might get another bust in the Hall of Fame as an administrator for doing this now for 21 consecutive years, he has missed wildly recently on picks that 15 years ago it turned into Ed Reed and Ray Lewis, right?
I'm surprised that when they all get together and they say there's a divide in the front office, and I'm saying to myself, a divide? What are you talking about? There's a divide. Yeah, how many names possible are you going through that people are fighting about? Who's fighting about it? Is it the owner? Is it like somebody like Jerry Jones or something like that? It should be like 1 or 2 people make a decision. What's the old saying? You got too many chefs in the kitchen. You know what what I'm talking about? You can't have that. You can get all the advice and do all the homework you want, but eventually it's got to come down to maybe one or two people. You can't have owners butting in and stuff like that. It should be the coach and the GM. After that, it's too many people in the kitchen.
What the Patriots have done is incredible, right? Not just, I know they're cheating somehow, Arnie. I know that. I mean, I know 10 years from now, Shaughnessy will write a book about something that was going on with headsets or who knows, communications. But this is really an unprecedented thing where we go into draft weekend and we can all sit here and talk about the Ravens trying to win 10 or 11 games and, the Steelers and Big Ben holding on and, what's Phillip Rivers going to look like in L.A. and, all the other teams in the AFC, and then there's the Patriots, and there's everybody else, and they've done it again in the offseason this year, and I'm sure that, they'll come out of this draft with 3 starters by 2019, right? They always do.
Well, I think they don't pick until the 3rd round. But you know what's interesting, Nestor? And I don't know. You could probably debate this because I got taken to task. I thought it was pretty simple, and everybody was going to agree with me. We were talking about Tom Brady, and obviously being the best of all time. I'm living up here among Patriot fans. God forbid Tom Brady's face isn't on a $100 bill. I don't know why, but it's amazing because I said, you know what? You're lucky Tom Brady's played in the AFC East against the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Bills 6 times every year for the last 15 years. Because I promise you, if he played in the North with Pittsburgh and Baltimore and Cleveland and Cincinnati, or if he had to play in the NFC East with Dallas and Washington and Philly and the Giants, he wouldn't have half the success that he is enjoying right now. And people jumped on me. A lot of them agreed with me, but a lot jumped on me. You know it as well as I know it. It benefits you when you can have a cakewalk through your division and you're not getting beat up week in and week out. And look, nothing against Tom Brady. It's not his fault, but he's enjoyed that success because he's played in the weakest division. He's not like LeBron, where LeBron's good either in Miami or he's good in Cleveland or he'll be good in LA or he'll be good on an NBA developmental team or whatever. But again, Brady's benefited from playing in that crappy AFC East, and nobody sees that.
Arnie Spanier has long been the Stinking Genius. He's now the Stinking Genius 1 out on Twitter. You can follow him. He's up in Burlington, Vermont. He's my old pal doing national sports radio back in the 1990s at 101 Sports when I was there in Sporting News Radio and has been out at Fox Sports for a number of years doing weekends there. And you can find him at Stinking Genius and the number 1 as well as at Fox Sports Radio iHeart as well. Hey, dude, out on Twitter this week, you brought up a point that I remember arguing this back before I was syndicated, back when the Capitals were in the Stanley Cup Finals in 1998 against the Detroit Red Wings. This is 25 years deep into sports radio for me, Arnie. So I remember these arguments that I had back in the 90s when hockey was more like a test tube niche sport. I've always been a hockey guy. I've always said that the hockey playoffs are the pinnacle of all of the sports postseason activities that happen. Clearly, the NFL has gone in this direction where it's made so much money. The gambling side of it, the once a week, the train wreck. I think this. It's the sport that brings black and white, and young and old, and rich and poor, and east and west. Everybody comes together on football. I think college football and high school feed that, and obviously hockey's a Canadian sport. But Arnie, I've said for all of my career, if you were to bring a Martian down from Mars or a Mercurian down from Mercury here and say, we're on planet Earth and we play these games and people gamble on them, they make millions of dollars if they can play them well, they're on television, the society's addicted to the underwear and the uniforms and the history and, all over the planet, Arnie. I've seen soccer in South America and Europe and, they love cricket and rugby in New Zealand and in Australia. Everybody loves sports, but I've been around the world and I watch sports and I've seen bullfights in Madrid. Hockey, to me, would be the great equalizer that if you brought somebody down and there was no cultural bias about it at all and said, sit and watch one of these games and then watch a baseball game and then watch a basketball game, watch a soccer game, watch ping pong, high swimming, whatever you want, right? Hockey is the most exciting game, and I know you've been polling people this week about this, and having been now 2 weeks into the basketball playoffs, 2 weeks into the hockey playoffs, 3-4 weeks into baseball, when you go clicker by clicker, I don't know how you just don't stop at the hockey game every night. And the damn things are always 1-1 or 2-2, and they're always going to overtime, right?
You know what I love? I love when the place just goes crazy when the team gets the goal to go ahead or, tie it up and there's like 5 minutes left in the game and the whole arena just jumps up off their seat. I got to be honest, when I was a young kid, I was an Islander fan, but and I enjoyed hockey but of course it wasn't the major sport of me growing up, but I really enjoyed it a lot. And I really didn't take it back over because until my son started to play I was a basketball player. I played football. And out of all the sports, my son played hockey, and he's a hockey goalie. So, that got my renewed interest in it. He watches the NHL Network like we watched cartoons when we were a kid. So, it's kind of taken back over our life. I watch all the NHL games. My wife is a big hockey fan. She's from Buffalo. She's a Sabre fan. Don't hold that against her.
Oh, man, long suffering. A lot of suffering going on there.
Long time suffering. But, I love to see my kid plays junior hockey right now. By the way, Nestor, tell the Capitals that if they're looking for a kid after a college in 4 or 5 years, draft my kid. He's a great goalie. He's playing junior hockey now. But that's my renewed interest because my kid's a goalie and we enjoy hockey together. So, a lot of father-sons are baseball or football. Mine just happens to be the NHL and hockey with my son.
Yeah, one of my dear friends, his son was a hell of a goalie and, tried to go to the junior circuit and had some injuries along the way, but was a special local player as well and, had aspirations. And I know what an incredible commitment that is, right? I mean, and I think it's something that 25, 30 years into a sports radio career, that's something that I learned very early on, back when I was a real media member, and I went to Orioles games in the late 80s and early 90s as a wide-eyed kid, is just how much goes into Chris Tillman getting back on the field for the Orioles, how much it goes into when a Zach Britton in a contract time in his life starts having arm problems that could be a $75 million problem. It could be the end of a career for any of these guys. And, I saw that in baseball early on, and then you see what parents go through, what every kid who almost makes it goes through, let alone what it's like to be Manny Machado or, to be Bryce Harper or Mike Trout. And I think a lot of that's really well documented now. Don't you agree with, the networks and stuff? I mean, I saw an hour-long special on Mike Trout, and I feel like I know his family outside of Philly, I know that family, right?
I never put expectations. It never occurred to me as he was getting older, that this was something that he was going to do outside of college or that he was going to be good enough. He was a defenseman, and then at a very young age, he switched over to goaltender. And he developed, and as we moved around, it's very tough because you got to go ahead and get back in with a different team. And, each team's only got 2 goaltenders, so it's tough to do that. But a funny story, we're in Buffalo, and my son's playing this probably about 3-4 years ago, really high-end summer league, and he's really coming along good. He's playing well, and I bring him to a game. I'm watching the game, and this little punk kid, he's like 5'8", 160 pounds, puts up like 3 goals on my kid in the first 10 minutes of the game. Coming in for a fourth, my kid had to make a great save. I couldn't take it anymore. I don't say much, but I'm screaming, is somebody going to put a body on this kid, or is he going to come in and put 10 goals on my kid? Someone help out. And one of the fathers comes over and he goes, hey, that's Patrick Kane, you idiot. Calm down. And I just started laughing. But, I've seen him against high-end talent. I'm curious to see how far he's going to go. I really am. He's in the second year of his juniors. He's probably going to play Tier 2 hockey, and then after that, he's off to college. I don't know what team or what school, but Only time will tell, Nestor. I'll keep you guys updated for sure.
Arnie, I'll say this, man. I spent last week up in Toronto. I lived in Scarborough for 3 days in a hotel, off an Asian neighborhood that had some of the best dim sum I've had this side of Hong Kong or San Francisco. It was fantastic. And, I drove into the rink every day, and I drove around town, went to the Hockey Hall of Fame. And, I've always loved hockey. It's amazing that, like you said, the last thing on your mind in Tucson probably was hockey, right? But that being said, Austin Matthews and what he's done turned that city on its ear up there. They're going to win championships up there. I really believe that, and I think people up there believe that. It's and for a kid from the middle of the desert to do this, and you being a parent trying to take your child into a direction where he can follow a dream. And again, I had a very close friend of mine with a son who was a goalie, much like you, who had the same aspirations. For an Austin Matthews to be this good this early, that's a good sign for hockey. In America, right? All over America.
He was the one from Phoenix, correct, Nestor?
Right, correct.
Yeah, because my son, he was the one my son also played with at the same time. I think my son's 19 years old, so I think they played back in the Arizona days. So, yeah, my son actually played for the Junior Coyotes, the Junior Kings, I got the Junior Stars, the Junior Sabres. You pick a city. He's played for that team. So, yeah, it can be done. We lived in Arizona for a long time, but now we live on the East Coast. He's playing over in the Boston area last year. He had a great year. We see a lot of teams from the Washington area. I see like the Little Caps and the Junior Capitals, and what a great organization they have. And there's Tier 1 hockey. It's so booming out here. So, like I said, I'm curious to see how far he's going to go. This is going to be a big year for him. He's doing tryouts so far, and 2 out of the 4 tryouts have gone well. So, you got to keep your fingers crossed. But you're right. Hockey is it didn't die like everybody thought it was. I thought it was going to fall behind soccer. Remember, it was like those bumper stickers, play soccer,
right,
and it said AYSO. Yeah, I don't think soccer took over like everybody thought it was going to, Nestor.
Arnie Spanier is the Stinking Genius out on Twitter. He's been my pal for about a quarter of a century now. You can follow him at Stinking Genius 1 on Twitter, as well as at Fox Sports Radio on the weekends. And 101.3 FM in Burlington, Vermont, man, and living the life up there. You get fresh Ben & Jerry's up there around the clock, right?
Fresh Ben & Jerry's, all the maple syrup I want.
Yeah. Send it down.
And a college right down the road in the Vermont Catamounts who had a phenomenal basketball season. So, and Nestor, give your wife a big kiss for me. I've been following all the Facebook posts, and I'm glad she's doing better, and just give her a big kiss for me.
You got it, Arnie. Hey, man, we'll stay in touch and, talk once in a while, catch up once in a while, talk some baseball during the summer. It'll be great to have you on. Arnie, always a pleasure to check in with you, man. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, don't wait until the Expos come back. So, yeah, give me a call anytime, Nestor.
Hey, I'm feeling bad I didn't go up for those exhibition games. I still have never seen a game at Olympic Stadium, and I'm a stadium guy, you know what I'm saying? You can find me out in the Bayou Toyota Audio of all 24 hours a day. From anywhere in the world on your mobile device, we got you covered for the draft all week long. Breaking news happens first on the WNST text service. We will be getting those out to you on Thursday and Friday. It's if there's trades, if there's movement, if you're somewhere else Thursday and not in front of the television. We've been doing that for over a decade now, about 10,000 of you on the WNST text service. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Of course, Dennis will be here on Thursday warming you up, getting all the scuttlebutt and the rumorama out before the draft on Thursday night, so we'll be doing that as well. You can find me anywhere the internet is served: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and, of course, our road trips now on sale: Green Bay, Nashville, Minneapolis, London. Go to the road trips tab at WNST.net. $100 off this week for anybody that jumps in early here and now for any of our trips. We got great trips this year. I hope to see you on one of them, whether it's Lambeau Field, whether it's Nashville and the Honky Tonks, as well as Minnesota, which has got a new stadium, Mall of America. Take your wife. She'll like the shopping. The holiday season. What can I say? All right. I'm Nestor. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.